particularly in America. Race and racism is a topic that many avoid due to how uncomfortable and heavy the topic is, but that's exactly why we need to talk about it. It shapes so much of our life and America's history that it's crazy how understudied and under-talked about it truly is. Now, before I dive into the topic, I want to make something very, very clear. All minorities face racism in one way or another in America, but in this particular podcast, I will be focusing on the Black and African American experience and how that looks like for them. A common trend I noticed amongst the people I was interviewing as part of my study for this podcast was that nobody seems to quite understand or even ponder the origins of race, aka where race originated, which blew my mind because, like I said, race rules almost all aspects of life. So the fact that nobody seems to question where it came from was mind-boggling to me. This fact was made apparent to me when I asked them where they think race originated from, and they answered with things like,
so I think race originates from well, obviously there's genetic factors, scientific background behind it. We came from like different parts of the world, and of course we all live different, we all have different,
or
I don't think there's actually like a scientific way to like define race. So it's more of like a social construct. That's the way I view it, at least.
Or even
like an inherent like set of certain traits.
and some even said,
race comes from your ancestors.
another thing that blew my mind while doing my research for this whole topic of how race is socially constructed was just how recently race was actually constructed. In fact, in the medieval times, people were not dividing themselves based on race. They divided themselves based on things like religion, place of origin, stuff like that. Race didn't start showing up as we know it today until the 1500s, literally during colonization and slavery. And that brings me to my next point. Race was used to justify slavery. Race didn't exist as we know it today until slavery became a thing, until colonization. One Time magazine did a really good job at showcasing this. They showed that between 1525 and 1866, around 400,000 Africans were taken to North America, and another 11 million were scattered across all of America. I apologize for the constant changing of settings and attire. This video was recorded within a few days. So yeah. So as you can see, race was not created out of biology, but a need to justify oppression and keep certain minorities, in particular African Americans, like I stated, oppressed. Otherwise, it would have shown up way earlier than it did. I think that timing was very telling and not a coincidence. This conversation is especially important today because when people think that race is natural or biological, they start to think that racism and oppression is to be expected, or they start justifying that and feeling helpless in solving inequality or racism. Though we do not have slavery today, at least not as we did back then, its effects are still lingering on today, which is why this conversation is important right now and right here. Though we do not have slavery today, at least not as we had in the past, slavery doesn't show up the same, though it is very present in other countries, but that's a different conversation for a different time. Racism is still very apparent. Though it's very subtle nowadays, it's still ingrained in the very systems that we have. We see this in the housing. We see this with stuff like redlining, access to healthcare or lack thereof, funding for schools, criminal justice system. It's everywhere, all at once. And to be fair, to further understand this, you have to think about it not from an individual basis, like one person is responsible or it's bad people doing bad things, because it's really not. It's more like systems that are built and structured in a way that disadvantage others while advantaging other people, which creates inequality and it's not balanced out. Another example to put into perspective just what I mean when I say race is socially constructed is that, for example, Irish and Italian people were not considered white when they first got here, and one day society just kind of changed that. am oversimplifying it, but yeah, that's basically the gist. And that just goes to show that race is not biological, it's socially constructed because it changes over time. It doesn't show up the same. If you were to move to a different continent, the different categories of race look very different than the ones we have here in America. In other words, the idea of race is not universal at all, and even in America, it changes and takes different shapes depending on different time periods. There have been various of different movements and efforts to address the problem of racism, like affirmative action, educational reform, changes in the criminal justice system, and social movements like the Black Lives Matter. And these movements are not aimed to like give extra perks or advantages to like the minorities or marginalized people. They're aimed to like level the playing field so they're equal, so we're equal in the end, because it's not right now. But that's another misconception. Some people view the different movements or efforts as like trying to give extra perks and benefits to those groups that it's aimed towards, when in reality they're just trying to give the same opportunities as everybody else. And honestly, that's the goal that we should all have in mind. We should try to create a world where everybody's equal and has equal opportunity, and no one group of people or marginalized communities are pushed to the margins by systems that were never made for them and in fact work against them.